Welcome back everybody to another Valorant guide. Today we're going to be covering general tips to climb through whatever rank you might be in. These general tips, if you implement all of them, especially the last one, you will be able to climb into gold no problem, and if you're already in gold, imagine just how much better you can be if you implement all of these tips as follows. First things first, never be afraid to insta-lock your agent. It is not a bad thing, despite what the people on your team will think. Insta-locking is much better than playing someone you have no experience in or just generally don't feel comfortable playing. So always insta-lock your agent if you're only comfortable with the one or two. Try to insta-lock them. If you have a little bit more of a flexible agent pool, I'd only recommend having 3 kind of main agents. You can feel free to flex a little bit into the other 2, but generally speaking, insta-lock your favorite, insta-lock the one you are best at, because that is what's going to help you climb. Caving into your teammates saying, oh, it's so toxic, you should never insta-lock, blah, 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 that's just going to make you absolutely cripple your ranked rating. Carrying on through my list, which is in no particular order, we have trade your teammates. Always look to trade your teammates, especially if they are just running in and dying instantly, not getting any value. What you might as well do is peek off of their death and kill whoever killed them or kill people nearby while everyone's distracted with your teammate who's just running it down. Anytime a teammate swings an angle, you should be thinking about being ready to trade if they get killed swinging that angle. Either swing wide behind them or swing right after them. Depending on if they tend to swing short or swing wide, just try to swing in such a way where you're not back to back. But you still want to have that chance to capitalize on the enemy being distracted. This also goes hand in hand with what's next on the list, which is always set up your crossfires, especially on post-plant or in defensive scenarios. You want to set up so that wherever the enemy is likely to come from, you have 2 people ready to fight that angle and holding it from different positions so that you can't just instantly get sprayed down. You want to make your enemy look in as many directions as possible. Like I said, this is especially important on post-plant scenarios, so always look to set up your crossfires. This also goes hand in hand with the next item on our list, which is to always try and play the objective, that being planting and defending the spike, or defusing the spike, depending on which side you're on. You don't want to push when you don't have to. So like I just said, you're going to want to set up crossfires. If you're on post plant, instead of trying to push through to the enemy spawn, just set up a crossfire and wait for them to come to you. You're going to have a much higher advantage if you're setting up with your team as opposed to just running it down and probably dying in the enemy spawn. Now, after you take a gunfight, you're always going to be wanting to look to reposition. This is the most important thing you can do, and I mentioned it in my Valorant guide to peeking, which you can find down in the description as well, as long as I remember to put it there. But you always want to reposition after the enemy knows where you are, because you need to switch up the information that the enemy has. If they know where you are, that's free information for them. If you move, that's wasted information, and it might even work in your favor as they might still think you're there. So always look to reposition after you get a kill or even just take a couple shots. You're going to want to reposition so that they don't know where you are or don't know where you could be. Keep the enemy guessing and always keep them on their toes and catch them off guard. That being said, when you're repositioning or rotating, never take space with knife out. What I mean by take space is go into a territory that you don't know for certain the enemy won't be in. If there's even a chance that one enemy is there, don't run with your knife out. You always want to be on guard, and you want to keep a mental note of where on the map your team has control over versus what the enemy team has control over, and then the few spaces that are unknown. There's always going to be some unknown areas because there might be one person lurking or whatever from the enemy team. So unless you know where every single person on the enemy team is, be careful when you're rotating through areas that you don't know you have all the information on. Next up, I have a few general economy tips, but of course, if you want to get a more in-depth detail of all of my economy tips, you can check out my video, again, down in the description, if I remember to put it there. But first off, avoid using utility on save rounds as much as possible. So anytime that you're saving for the next round, you also want to consider saving your abilities. You don't only want to save your credits, because otherwise you might get to next round and only have enough credits for your gun and your armor, and you'll have no utility to work off of, and it'll be 100% gunplay, which gives your team an advantage even if they have less guns than you. Now, when you're doing partial buy or force buy or anything of the sort, you're going to want to prioritize half armor and a full gun, like a Phantom or a Vandal, instead of getting, say, a full armor and a Spectre, aside from the second round, which again I talk about in my economy video. But essentially, in the later rounds of the game, you're going to want to be buying half armor and a gun, because usually you're going to die from the same amount of shots between half armor and full armor anyway, with a few exceptions with wall bangs and limb shots and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, if you get shot in the head, you're dead anyway, but if you can react fast enough to shoot someone in the head with a Vandal, it'll have a lot more impact than your reaction time to hit someone with a Spectre. So always try to get the best gun you can versus the best armor you can. Now, whenever you know that you have better guns than your enemy, you're going to want to play safe, because you don't want to give them your guns for free. That's just giving them free economy. It's like transferring them 2,900 credits right off the bat. Completely useless, a waste of your entire existence in that round. So play safe when you have the gun advantage, unless you're absolutely stomping, in which case you'll have the gun advantage for the next, 3 rounds. But always, always, always play safe with the gun advantage. Don't give your enemy team your gun. And if your team full buys, you always want to try and do the same. This is our next tip. Always, always, always buy like your team does if it's a majority rules kind of situation. If your team all forces and gets Phantom, Vandal, and full armor, and you try to go on a save with like a half armor and a Sheriff, you're absolutely crippling your team by taking their full buy round and making it have less value. The more chances you have to win that round, the more likely you are to save the money your entire team just spent. So you don't want to put those credits to waste single-handedly. Alright, now the most important tip of this entire video is keep the mental state of your entire team up. Negativity will single-handedly lose your games, I can guarantee it. I've seen it happen, I've even done it myself. I've made this mistake, obviously, everyone has. But always, always, always keep the mental up. For example, if someone griefs one round on your team, say your Sage makes an absolute brain-dead move and loses the round for your team, don't start bashing them, don't endorse your team bashing them. Instead, as soon as the next round starts, start talking strategy. Take your team's mind off of the fact that your Sage just griefed and put it on to the next round and focus hard on winning the next round. Get their gears turning in such a way that's moving away from negativity and into strategy. It's a little bit of a mind game, but I guarantee if you simply say you're on attack, Sage griefs, as soon as round starts, you say, hey guys, do you want to go A or B? They're already getting way less negative, and you're keeping your team's mental state up. So always, always, always try to keep your entire team's mental state higher and keep the negativity out of the game. As soon as you start being negative, the whole game is lost, so there's absolutely no point. Alright, I believe that is all I have for today. If I think of anything else, I will put it down in the description or in the top comment. Without further ado, have a lovely rest of your day, evening, morning, afternoon, and night. Bye-bye!